Now, to talk more on this, I'm joined in studio by social entrepreneur Dean Graham and career coach Xolisa Luthi. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming in on a Sunday morning.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, but it is absolutely important work that you do. Starting with you, Xolisa, you've had a long career in education, and now you're the head of school at Future Nations. Tell me about the job of creating a new kind of school or a new kind of institution to equip South African youth for the future.
Okay, thank you. You know, when you come to our education sector, I've been in the education sector for more than 15 years, and then being exposed in different ways of teaching, being exposed to different sectors, from the rural schools to township schools to suburban schools.
Yeah.
Now, coming into Future Nation schools, there's a new approach in teaching. That approach is called project-based learning.
Okay.
Then that project-based learning, it's a practical approach. So the content is still there, it's important, but we're exposing the students to the real life. So when a child gets into a class learning about the content, they also find a way of how to apply in life. Giving an example, we have grade 10 students. They are engaged in long projects. Long project, that means they can run for a year, up to 3 years, up to their metric. One of the students said, I want to research about what causes the blood cancer. So the first phase, which is this term 1, they research about the background in the blood and then find out white cells and the red cells, and then they presented their findings. Then the next stage now is to find out what is it that causes that cancer from the blood. So I'm talking of a grade 10 who is exposed to that kind of life. But there are also other students said, I want to research about the effects of color into our behavior. So they're bringing in art, and then they're also bringing in psychology. But others, they said, I want to express my feelings using fine arts. Others, they said, no, I want to research about how can I communicate using dance. So they're bringing in the art, they're bringing in science, they're bringing in humanities into their research.
What determines how long these long-term projects are? You said they can vary from a year to 3.
Okay, you have what we call mini projects that can run for a few weeks because of that short content. But others can run for a term and they're exhibited at the end of the term. But the long projects now, it depends on what we want to discover at the end.
Are you teaching your learners, I guess, a social impact, to look out for things that have a social impact, or, for instance, that might start imparting entrepreneurial skills, for instance, that kind of independent thinking and that kind of independent way of looking for their own opportunities? Because effectively, the statistics that we're looking at, our unemployment rate, we know that youth unemployment is a huge problem in this country as well. How do you, as an educator, for instance, in your individual capacity, but as an institution, how do you prime young people to start thinking about their futures? Because quite often when we were growing up, it was study this because business is going to be big, or do compute, essentially gearing us up to be employees, and that clearly is not the way to go at this stage. How do you do that on an individual basis, but as an organization?
Okay, on the I'm a teacher as well. So not just as a head of school, I'm teaching leadership with the grade 10s.
Yes.
And one of the main things there is to say, you need to be proud of your identity. And then being proud of your identity, no one should persuade you to take what other people think. Our parents, they have an impact to our choices. So maybe I wanted to be a doctor and then I never got a chance. Now I want to live my life through my child. Now we're training our children to say, stand strong in your identity, but also be exposed to what you're passionate about, and then also get the skills that you have. So you do a self-introspection as a child, then you also look at my passion, then I can make a decision.
All right, so we'll talk hard skills now, preparing us for the real world. Dean, as a motivational speaker and as someone who's taken it upon himself to motivate people, when you do interact with young people, what are you telling them? What message are you taking to them?
Well, the message I take to kids, I mean, like what you had highlighted on now, is that parents are very much go and do this. I was with the youth 2 days ago, and I was speaking to him, and I actually drilled down. Within 20 minutes, I find what career, what job, does he have an opportunity, and I rechanged his mind and saying to him, maybe you need to look at opportunities in careers, starting a job, where it's waitering, interacting with people. But where we point it down, and I say to them, is you need to look at becoming an entrepreneur. In this country, it's all about entrepreneurship. Our schooling system, unfortunately, breeds kids to go out to get jobs that don't exist. Whereas if you can take 30 people in a classroom, like that's what we focus on in School to Career. We've got a course called Advantage Course, where we teach kids from the age of 13 to start looking at what it is you want to do. The parent story as well. This specific kid, the parents are turning around saying, become a graphic designer. After drilling in 5-10 minutes, is saying to them, listen, you know, do you enjoy this? Can you sit behind a desk your entire day? So you ask the real questions, and you say, this is the rest of your life. You do understand in 10 years' time, if you choose to do that, you'll have the salary that goes with it. But at the same time, if you want to change careers, which most people do, you are then going to start and take a salary drop. Whereas if we have kids come out, I mean, as South Africa, we have a lot of problems. I mean, be real, we know we have a lot of problems, but problems means there's solutions, which means there's money. It's opportunity. So if we can find these opportunities within the youth, I mean, one of the things I'm looking for is the next under 21 millionaire. I'm hoping he comes out of a rural area. There's 2 guys specifically that I'm working with right now, and the one is 25 years old, and if you take a look at him, he's about to launch a bag range internationally. No, he's just got basic schooling. So we're not trained in that sense, and kids come out, and they really are lost. They are clueless as to what they should be doing. And entrepreneurship, parents, my mother, I still remember with my mother, she turned around and said to me, get a job, go the safe route.
So to that point, I'm going to pose this question to both of you. Can entrepreneurship be taught? Can you instill those skills? And as a country, are we making this environment suitable and conducive to becoming an entrepreneur and thriving?
Not in our current school system, no. That's why I go out of my way now to turn around and say to kids, let's find entrepreneurship. Anyone can be an entrepreneur. You can start a business on the side of the road. You just need to look for the opportunities within your area and go through and see where you can provide it. All the other skills, the A students end up working for the C students because the C students see the opportunities and then they employ the A students to do that.
I mean, that is quite a Silicon Valley mentality. And whilst I appreciate that, I'm interested to get your perspective, Xolisa, about this specifically. Is it feasible and viable in the South African context?
We need more people like Dean. Sorry. That's why we say when you get into a schooling system, majority, yes, our students are still taught content and then they get their grades and that's it. Then they struggle when they get to the job market. Then we need people like Dean who will come into the school and say, I need to partner with the schools, adopt schools, get into the school and say, as you are taught this content, which is important, but how are you going to apply it when you get up in the job market? So schools like the Fisher Nation schools, yes, it's one. But they said, we want to model this. We want to show it out there to say,
it's
schools,
a pin drop.
Yeah, can you try this and then see how is it going to change our lives? I also have teachers who come from university. They come in with good grades. But when you put them in front of a class, we still need to start from scratch again. So our practicality, we need to expose our students to the practical life. Then when they get to the market, it's easy for them.
Okay, so let's talk practicality. A huge buzzword amongst government circles is 4IR, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, right? Gearing our children up for this. Recently, the president, I think he announced the fact that he wanted to put a tablet or some kind of device in every household, you know, and he talks a lot about digital education. And unfortunately, a device doesn't digital education make. There is so much more to that. How do we, number one, as entrepreneurs, start thinking about the future and how we either become competitive contributors in it or competitive players in it? And as educators, how do we start gearing children up, and everybody, in fact ourselves even, up for this new future that's coming along, this Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is upon us, but clearly things are developing at a speed that if we don't sort of jump on the train now, we might just get left behind. How do you do that from an education perspective? And then we'll get to you, Dean, in terms of entrepreneurship.
We have something called adult connection. So with adult connection, we know in our world right now, we have people who are saying, I'm a social media manager. Back in the days during our time, we didn't even know there was something called social media.
Yes.
So we bring those social media managers to come in and speak with the students to say, check, this is something that came in now during this era of Fourth Industrial Revolution. Now, South Africans, they say we want to partake into this Fourth Industrial Revolution, not just as observers. So in order to do that, let's bring in the market. The market must inform the schools to say, this is the kind of a child we want.
Okay.
Instead of being the schools, universities, saying to the market, take here's a child that I produce. No, I must make my education relevant. So instead of just teaching only the theory. Theory is important for reference, but let's move with the evolution of education. Let's produce a child that is needed in the market by bringing the market into the classroom, bringing the market into the university, and shape with the curriculum that we have so that it can be relevant.
So, Dean, how do we create kids that are relevant to the market, but also kids that shape the market?
I wouldn't agree with putting tablets. Most kids have their iPhones or their smartphones. I would look at subsidizing data, because the tablet's useless if you can't actually get the information.
And what then happens with that data?
Well, you research. I mean, you go through everything's on the internet you want to study. So maybe you can't get into university. Maybe you don't understand entrepreneurship, but YouTube's there. You can watch YouTube videos on everything and anything. If you've got a cell phone, you've got a business, you've got a brand. You know, one of the biggest things I actually teach kids is your brand. When you go for your interview at 18 years old, be sure that your boss is looking at your Facebook profile. So if you're rocking around there in a bikini or you know, like these social media influencers, you're probably not going to get the job. And this is where we're going down is, it's more about branding than anything else, is how you brand yourself to get into the workplace, as well as, you know, like the education versus qualification. I mean, qualification versus experience.
Yeah.
Unless you're a doctor, I kind of think it comes down to experience, because it's getting the job done. So it's a great idea, but people don't have money in this country to go and use data. Data is very expensive. We're one of the most expensive nations in the world with data.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a dead end.
So then, just to close, what kind of, let's say, once you're out of high school, what kind of degrees or qualifications should we be looking for and focusing on going forward?
I wish I can come up with a degree in innovation. Because we don't want to just reproduce the knowledge that has been there. We want the students that will come up with new ideas. An idea where I can sit in my home and teach the students that are in their own homes and have collaboration using the technology that I will have in my space. So let's get into our university's education sector and said, I want a child who can come up with new ways of doing things. Innovation is my key.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. That was social entrepreneur Dean Graham and career coach Xolisa Luthi.